He somehow escapes, joins up with a tourist group at the DMZ, then yells, "Ha ha ha," and makes a run for it. Like, can you imagine giggling as you defect to a North Korean prison camp?
Yeah, I mean, he probably woke up the following day thinking, boy, was I drunk last night. Hope I didn't do anything stupid.
Exactly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Very Special Relationship, the podcast that encourages you to enjoy your mass-produced Twinkies with a spot of tea. I'm your host, Andrea Bridges-Smith, coming to you from the Fenix News Network, and with me here from the Interesting Times is my fabulous co-host, Matt Johnston. Matt, how are things on your side of the Atlantic?
No, it was good. Thank you for asking. Well done as well for reminding us that we are in the Atlantic, aren't we? So
yes.
Our government, our wonderful government, has been crowing about the fact that we've struck a deal with a load of Pacific countries called the CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnerships. There we go.
Wow, sexy.
Yes, but no sooner do we sign, Andrea, than we find out that Americans left or didn't join or something. That's like driving across country to see BTS, but when you get there, there's no gymming. Thank you, Google. Was it something we said? We don't want to come across as needy, right? But come on. We'll even let you win the Women's World Cup, although we may not have a choice in that regard.
Right.
So what about the US? Seems to be a lot of stuff going on about Trump going on trial. Don't want to get my hopes up. I mean, I've been hurt before.
Well, you know what they say, third time's a charm, right? Or in this case, a distinct lack of any charm whatsoever. So we've got this special prosecutor, right? And he sent a letter to Trump that seems to indicate he's about to be indicted for the third time this year, which is very unusual for former presidents. Those indictments are coming in thick and fast. Trump's team has casually mentioned that maybe we should just wait until after the 2024 election to deal with all these pesky trials so that if he does get reelected, he can just issue presidential edict number 472 saying trials don't exist anymore or something like that, and then he's off the hook. Seems like running for president is an awful lot of trouble to go to just to dodge responsibility. And I'm curious, Matt, what's the farthest you've ever gone to avoid the consequences of your actions?
I genuinely never told anybody this before, but once when I was a child, I nicked sweets from a local shop and I ran virtually all the way home. That was like a mile and a half. Long way when you're a kid.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think the only thing that I can really think of is the time that I embezzled a bunch of money and then faked my own death in a sort of juggling chainsaw accident type scenario, and then moved here to start a new life under an assumed name. That's just between us, though. Don't tell anybody about that, okay?
Oh, yeah. Mum's a word, but I tell you what, more on that later, I think.
Yeah, it's a long story. Parts of it are fun. Now, Matt, over here we are having hot girls summer as well as hot boys summer, hot cat, hot parrot summer, a lot of heat in this summer. But we are also having the summer of strikes. So we have UPS, one of our major delivery services. They're looking at striking in a couple of weeks, which could bring a large chunk of our economy to a screeching halt, followed by some overly loud beeping as the trucks back up. Do you have that loud beeping truck thing over there?
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed one the other day was started going turning left and just start turning left, and everybody has to sort of go, oh right, okay, you're turning left, but your indicator tells me you're turning left, but never mind.
Yes,
there we go.
That's the Beatles number 9 of truck sounds. We should have that one re-recorded. Paul McCartney's still out there. We can call him up about it. So we've got those guys going on strike, but we've also got all of our writers and actors on strike, which has Hollywood at a complete standstill. So I'm going to need you to call David Tennant up, I assume you know him, and have him make some more gritty period dramas just as quickly as possible. Can you make that happen?
Yeah, well, that's no problem, Andrea, but we're mentioning you're after actors, right? I mean...
Yes. Okay, great, perfect. I need you in a powdered wig and some kind of like breeches, maybe. We'll do something on the French Revolution.
I've got it all here. I've got it all here, ready to go. I'll be on your TV sets before you know it.
Okay, great. I'm going to need that by next week. The things are really getting dry on the Netflix recommendation list. I understand that you guys actually have some strikes happening over there as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the strikes are pretty crazy. I mean, obviously happening over here as well. So you got the junior doctors. They look like they're going to continue striking. Although some healthcare professionals have taken a pay settlement from the government. And that might just have saved Sunak's neck, at least for the next few weeks. See, people are actually pretty sympathetic to the strikers, no matter how much the Tories try to turn them against us. It's tough for everyone at the moment, isn't it? Except the government, obviously. But what about America? Is there sympathy for the strikers over there?
Yeah, pretty much everyone agrees that the people at the top making bajillions off the labor of others should maybe share a tiny sliver of those profits, provided it doesn't interfere with any major yacht purchases. We've just gotten downright socialist over here.
Oh, yeah, sounds like it. Crikey. Bunch of Lenins.
Yes, exactly.
What you need is a billionaire leader to basically tell you to stop overreacting. You can have ours if you like.
I can assure you that we are quite stocked up on those, but thank you for the offer. There was actually a leak from a studio CEO that basically said they were going to wait until the writers were homeless before negotiating with them again. But yes, the writers are the ones who are overreacting. Mm-hmm.
Oh, shocking. I mean, what do these people want to do? Eat?
You're right, exactly. Yeah. Let them eat
I mean,
cake.
It's all well and good knocking the writers until you have something to read, then there's trouble.
Right.
So, I don't know if you know much about this, Andrea, but we've got a pretty racist government. You probably heard that, right?
I have, and I can relate to that predicament.
Well, there you go. So you might be asking, how racist? Well, we're trying to fly immigrants to Rwanda. You might have heard of that.
Yes.
But we were also preparing to put them on huge container ships, 2 to a room, basic provisions, and 24-hour security. If that sounds familiar, well, it's a prison ship. I mean, let's call it what it is, right?
Right.
Now, what an utterly disgraceful way to treat those fleeing war and climate change. I think any politician that recommends these things should spend 1 month in the conditions they want to impose on other people. They want to be our leaders, let them lead.
Yes, exactly. Let's have them go first. We have the same problem over here too. If people show up uninvited, we're like, screw it, put them over there. And the put them over there policy isn't actually working very well. Sounds like it's not working very well for you guys either. There was a story that came out this week about some really inhumane treatment of migrants coming over the border from Mexico into Texas, where I live. And to make that crossing, you have to get across the Rio Grande River, which is Spanish for holy shit, this river is huge. So that should give you some idea of how safe it is to cross.
I've seen the film.
Right, exactly. So the people that made it across and didn't die, once they got here, the authorities tried to push them back into the same river that they just barely made it across, which really seems like a dick move. I'm expecting any minute they're just going to rig up catapults to fling people back over.
Oh, yeah, that's appalling. They actually pushed them, well, not physically pushed them in, or?
Well, I think they, had very large guns and said, "Don't bother drying off. Back in you go." So, yeah, it's like. I mean, can we not just be human beings to other human beings? Would that be so hard?
Exactly. I mean, we keep telling people how strong our respective countries are, and when people knock on our door asking for help, we shit our pants.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
On a slightly lighter note, Andrea, I see your old buddies, those crazy North Koreans, are up to some craziness.
Yes, North Korea and I go way back.
Well, they only gotten themselves an American soldier called Travis King, I think.
Right.
He basically ran into North Korea to stop him getting into trouble because of fights he got in South Korea. I mean, talk about getting out the frying pan out there, right? So the North Koreans then launched 2 ballistic missiles into the Eastern Sea in what I guess was the equivalent of a screw you world, we're still here approach. Are people a little concerned about this in America, Andrea? Or are you all like, no, we can take these pussies?
Well, North Korea has been launching missiles into the sea for a while, which I can only hope leads to some kind of massive fish uprising at some point. But basically, every time they do it, the Pentagon goes, oh, look, how cute. North Korea's doing one of their little missiles again. I mean, we could level the place in seconds if we wanted to, but at this point, I think the fish probably want it more. The funniest part of this story to me is how he got across. I don't know if you've read the details, but he was being sent home from South Korea for being a bad boy of some sort, and then he somehow escapes, joins up with a tourist group at the DMZ, then yells, ha ha ha, and makes a run for it. Like, can you imagine giggling as you defect to a North Korean prison camp? Like, ha ha, got you. No, they've got you, and now they're going to torture you. The joke is very much on you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he probably woke up the following day thinking, boy, was I drunk last night. Hope I didn't do anything stupid.
Exactly.
Wake up, where am I? That's going to be the Hangover 4, isn't it, really?
Yes. We've got to call Zach Galifianakis for that one. Get him working on a script as soon as he's able. Oh, shit, now he can't because of the strike. You're going to have to do that one too, okay? Can you pull that together?
Yeah. I can play all the parts.
The drunk guy, the prison camp warden, just wigs. We'll just do a lot of wigs on you, yeah?
Grow the beard, then don't grow the beard. Before we go, just enough time, Andrea, to mention that tomorrow will be the first 3 of 5 or even 6 by-elections that will be happening across the country in the UK. And it will be the same test that Sunak will have faced as Prime Minister. If you remember the local councils in May, that was the first one. That didn't go so well for him. He could end up losing all 3 by-elections, so his number could be up. Maybe we need another Liz versus lettuce scenario. You know, Rishi versus radish?
I don't know. Radishes are a pretty sturdy root vegetable. He feels to me more like a radicchio, something with a slightly shorter lifespan. So, Matt, I have to ask, what is a by-election?
Oh, well, put simply, when an MP has to stand down or decides to stand down in their constituency, we have a by-election to decide who to replace them. Basically, it's a very, 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 very specific general election for like one person.
It sounds less general than specific. So if Rishi Sunak, if his party, that's basically what we're saying here, is the people who have a chance of winning in these smaller elections are not members of his party, and that is bad for him. Do I have that right?
Yeah, hugely bad. I mean, it won't affect his majority, which is massive anyway from 2019. Right. But it kind of makes all the Conservatives sit there and think, well, where's bottom? Or if we lose these ones, if we keep losing and losing and losing, at what point do we win? If that makes sense. It's like chucking a pebble down a well and just waiting to hear it land, and then it's not landing. You just sit there and think, well, how many of us are going to lose our jobs come the next general election? So I think they'll be looking at Sunak thinking, maybe it's time for somebody else, or even maybe it's time for another general election. Who knows?
Or maybe it's time for the Conservatives to just give up and go away. That would be nice too, right?
Wouldn't that be the answer to everything?
Over here too. So one last question I have for you before we go. I keep thinking that I've heard of the most British thing I've ever heard in my life, and then I hear something else and I'm like, nope, that's it. And so we have a new contender this week for most British thing ever, and it's something called swan upping. Can you please explain to our listeners and viewers what the hell is swan upping?
I am over half a century old, and until you mentioned it before we came on air, I'd never ever heard of it before. And I don't know, maybe I'm one of the few that haven't. Maybe other people will sit there and kind of go, oh yeah, swan upping. No, we did that as part of a school trip or something like that. Basically, swan upping is, I don't know if you're aware of this, all the swans in the UK belong to the king.
All of them?
You're not allowed to eat them or kill them or anything like that. They belong to the king.
Okay.
And once a year they get weighed. It's like a swan census, if you like. They get weighed, they get measured, they get looked after for health reasons. And they have a chap called a swan marker who dresses up like a boat captain with a feather in his cap like this. He basically he looks remarkable, really, but he looks like somebody that had a single disco hit in the 70s. And it's his job to make sure that all the swans, apparently they give some of the swans to different places like the City of London or something like that. But yeah, that's essentially it. It's a swan census done once a year. I've never ever heard of it before till you brought it up. Remarkable.
Annual swan census, because
Yeah.
all the swans in the country belong to the king.
The swans only now. Here's the thing, and I've got to make sure I get this right.
Okay.
The swans that get measured are the one in the Thames.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all
not across
all
the
the
country.
swans in that river there. And do they get checked for overly brown water in their lungs or anything like that?
Well, the chap did say about there was sort of there might be an issue with sewage and stuff like that going into the Thames. He said that might be a sort of problem and stuff. So yeah, that's something to look out for.
Yeah, I could see how that would be not good for the swans, but they can take it up with their boss, the king, if
Yes.
they're unhappy about it, I suppose.
King Swan. Wonderful. So that's all we got time for, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to catch up on what we do solo, Andrea's channel is at Fenix News Network. So go over to that and join the American Revolution. My one is at The Interesting Times UK. And that's it. We'll do it all again next week, Andrea.
Yes, let's. Thanks for being here, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Cheerio.